So just a couple more minutes here on what might this look like. And this is, I'm just going to review a couple wild ideas on actually things that are being tried that bring this to the world of work. So you saw the guys at IBM collaborating. That's pretty easy to accept. There's not a lot of allergies left among the executives about having a guy with antlers come to a meeting. 2 or 3 years ago, there was no way that was going to happen in my company. But now, most of the Fortune 100 companies have some sort of an experiment going on that looks like that first slide of the 9 people working. Here's something that's even a little bit more radical that a company is working on right now. This is a game called Puzzle Pirates. It's a kind of a 2.5D game, not terribly visually rich, but has all the components that are part of all the other games. Has a bunch of little avatars. You get to move them around. There are goals. You get in groups. You've got all kinds of information about what's happening to your team. Captains choose pirates. Pirates and captains jump on ships. They compete against other ships. And you do that by puzzling. And the better you puzzle, the faster your ship goes, the more the bilge is pumped, the better the cannons fire. And that's a summary of a game that would take you 20 hours to figure out how it worked. The question is, could you take something out of that that's fun, just the game part, the puzzling part, and actually put in something that's serious? So what we're doing is actually taking out the puzzling and putting in a piece of work, in this case, a call center operator who's now got a team, and this is her interface. Instead of the tech stack that she used to see in the call center, she's now playing in this game that has a narrative and goals, and she's on a team. She gets points. She can see how things happening. There's a voice stress analysis that's happening to look at the people she's talking to and tell her with all kinds of information about how the call is going moment by moment. So it's really an interesting game-like feel. Okay, that's a long story. Quick, I'll do a couple others and then hear from Owen here. This is Star Wars Galaxies. This is a Wookiee that is a doctor in the game. In this game, you've got to take on a role, a job, and you've got to do something in the game that other people will give you currency for. And that's the only way you can rise in the game. So it's a really interesting economy in this game and a hierarchy of professions. So this is one of my graduate students, Nick, who took him probably about 500 hours to get to be a full-fledged medical Wookiee. And he had to learn how to operate all kinds of arbitrary, pretty much useless medical instrumentation. So this is not your casual grocery store aisle game. This is pretty involved. But one of the things he had to do was actually look at, so his job was warriors come in, they're wounded, he heals them, they pay the doctor, and he levels up and does well in the game. So what we did in a test with some folks at Eli Lilly, we were looking at, they were interested in these games as possible platform to increase collaboration and do some kind of drug discovery stuff. But we did a little study with, by taking out the scan, taking out the warrior from the game and actually feeding in medical information. So Leighton Reed, my co-author, is actually an MD. These are cancer scans. It takes about 20 hours to and then the doctor, as in the game, is asked to make a judgment. What do we got here, cancer or not? It takes about 20 hours for 30 gamers to become accurate enough in the judgment about whether cancer is present or not, and collectively do better than an average pathologist. So this is the kind of the wisdom of crowd aspect of this. I mean, you're not going to have surgery, call surgery based on the actions of a bunch of gamers, but you might, if you're a reinsurance company, you might say, hey, have somebody look at this one. The crowd thinks differerently. But it's kind of an interesting packaging of all the engagement that happens in the media around something serious. We've worked with a defense contractor on, I mean, the CIA has the same problems as the call centers do, looking for Osama, and all the pictures that come across their desks is really boring, and people quit because it's just boring. Well, you can make a game out of it. You can have some false positives. You actually get to find the bomb in the bag, at least once a day, maybe once an hour. and you play a game, you level up, there are points, there's competition, there's teams, a lot of fun stuff. Now I'll just mention one last application, which is the last, in about the last 6 months that we've been working on, outside of the enterprise, but in an area of social behavior that there are some really serious problems. So this is, right now, our government has spent, national government has spent about $8 billion, largely through the last Recovery Act, hooking up or paying utilities to hook up smart meters to homes to get moment by moment or day by day or information in front of people with the logic that people might actually change their behavior about how they use energy if they could actually see what was happening. And these are all the interfaces that have been used to show people the results of that $8 billion investment. And you could say the same thing about this as you could say about the tools that Bob had at the beginning. It's pretty stunningly dull unless you're really, really anxious to do the experiments in your house and look at the research results. It's not something that a lot of people are going to do in a sustained fashion. So we wondered here, could we take that sensing information that's coming into the house and repackage it in a way that would engage people and get them to change their behavior? And we came up with this game that is connected to Google Power Meter. So Google Power Meter takes information from the utilities or from devices that you have in your home about your energy use moment by moment. It's sent out on the internet. Google is now aggregating that information, and they're ready now to, just now in terms of the calendar and their business plan, to feed it back to you. So you can go to Google Power Meter and see what your house is doing. And right now, every hour, someday soon, probably every 7 seconds, but you get the same output as we did. So we've now hooked up Google Power Meter to Powerhouse, a game, almost a Farmville. Is there anybody in this room that plays Farmville? Thank you, Owen. Okay, 2 or 3 people. So you're not one of the 90 million average monthly users and probably 20 or 30 million, I don't know what it is this week, daily users of that game. Mostly launched through Facebook associations, but a Farmville-like game, or this particular game, where you're involved in a narrative, you've got goals, stuff's happening, but you're playing with real data. So this is an augmented reality game. So the points are racking up in the game. You turn off the light switch, the smart meter registers it, sends it to the utility sends it to the game server, and 10 points in the game, or 10 points on your iPhone. So it's just a quick tour through a bunch of possible applications of what I think are pretty engaging social features of these platforms and games applied to useful stuff.